So developing hockey IQ and hockey sense, like to me, as I said earlier, it's like I'm very careful about talking about this because I don't want anybody to walk away thinking, "Oh, okay, if I do these things, for sure, I'm going to have a higher, better, a Wayne Gretzky hockey IQ," because that's not. There's a gift and then there's work, right?
Yeah.
And but here's a whole bunch of things that will help you if you apply them. So the number one thing, and is I think it's pretty obvious, is you got to play hockey. Playing it will give you a pretty good sense. Number two is watch, but not just watch hockey, study it. There's a big difference between watching to just be entertained, and there's a big difference between watching to study and to learn, right? So while you're watching, especially if you're watching NHL, really good ways that you can maybe get your mind open or receptive to learning or just get ideas is there's guys like Ray Ferraro, excellent, Gary Galley, Kevin Bieksa that are in between. They're either color commentating or you get them in between periods and they explain some things. And if you pick up some of their thoughts and actually listen to what they're saying and look and say, okay, that makes sense to me, and pick up, you'll learn a lot about hockey that way, right? So those really good color commentators. I really like Ray Ferrari. Actually, you mentioned Kevin Bieksa, and I said he's actually pretty good too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, guys that played and they're showing parts of the game that this happened because of this. So if you can be in tune to that's a really good thing. And to me, watch and study hockey and ask, and the key is to ask questions. Okay, so when you're watching games, so improving your IQ is number one. Watch games. Okay, watch games, ask questions. Play games, ask questions. Practice, ask questions. Skills, your skill session, ask questions. Training, ask questions. Video, ask questions. When you're sitting with your coach or someone going over some video, ask a ton of questions. So for me as a coach or a skills trainer, when I explain something to somebody, or if I show them something, a deficiency or whatever, to help them improve their game, and they don't ask a question, a follow-up question, at least a good chunk of the time, then to me, it's like they're not even engaged. It's just like, yeah, I already know. And that's not improving anything. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So I think that's a very, very important piece is to ask questions, because when you ask questions, you get answers.
Yep.
Right. And what are the questions you ask? It's the W5 plus the H.
Yeah.
Right. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. So like, for example, when I'm watching a game, like, why did this happen? Who's doing it? Like, how did he do it? Why did he do it? Where did he do it? Why did he do it? Like, when can I use that? Right. So if I'm watching a game, for example, you might look at an NHL game, you go, why is it like the guys come out of on a power play, they come all the way up the ice and then they send it all the way back? Like, I know the answer, but that's a question. Like, if you're watching a game, you just see that, and you're as a hockey player, and you just see that happen over and over again. Do you notice it? Do you ask the question, or you just say, or you just watch it?
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you're just watching that happen over and over, you're probably not really understanding the game. Right? So that's a question to ask. I'm just going to throw a couple out like that. Why does here's another example: is you'll see it doesn't seem like the smartest play to me, like not to me, to a lot of the times, but you'll see maybe a puck go D to D and hold on to the puck, and that's a stretch pass straight up the ice where there's a forward with a D right on his ass, right? Or he chips it in, or he holds onto it to make another play. So if you like I understand why it could be a system thing, it could be just to stretch guys out. It's whatever. There's a lot of different reasons for it. But if you're watching the game, you could actually say, like, that seems like a really stupid play.
Yeah.
But then why do they keep making the stupid play? That answer will reveal itself once in a while, right? So then you go, okay, maybe I start to get that. Why do they dump in? Like, why do they dump in, and when do they dump in, and where do they dump it to? It's not sometimes not just good enough to dump a puck in a corner. What's the purpose of it? Well, is it to wear down the D, or is it just you don't have the skill to get through, or is that something that I need to work on? Or like, why are we dumping in? Where do I dump it to, and how do I go get it? Like, those are the actual questions, right? And is it a system thing, or is it the guy doing that just because he doesn't have the skill to make a one-on-one play?
Yeah.
You know, like, there's a lot of reasons for that. So that's another thing. Where are shots coming from? You know, if you don't know where like, you don't have a good goal scoring nose for the net. Like, look at where the shots are coming from, and that helps you both sides of the puck. right? If shots all come from the outside, then that's one thing. But do they come, or they come more from the inside? Where are most goals scored from, right? So if you know that most goals are scored tighter to the net, so where should you, on the defensive side, where should you be? If you're on the offensive side and you're looking for passes, where should you be? Like, why is it always happening there? So those are things like you can see patterns happening, so you can start making decisions differently, if that makes sense.
Yep.
There was another one I wanted to say is, oh yeah, so like I was just watching last night because, a lot of times you get a scrum on the wall,
yep,
and there's 3 guys, 4 guys, 5 guys, 6 guys, but usually it's like 4 or 5. It's like, why do they stand there and wait? Why is there one guy hesitant to go in? Like, why shouldn't I just jump? Why shouldn't I just maybe fly the zone because if our guy wins it? Like, all these different questions, and there's actually reasons for that. Like, there's kind of a rule when I played: fourth man in loses.
Yeah.
Do you ever hear that one?
Yeah.
Right. So fourth man in loses. It seems so. Like, you'll see the fourth guy kind of not get in there quite as quick because there's going to be a loose puck, and he typically is going to get it. So, like, those are questions and things you need to learn. So when you go into scrums like that, you might go all aggressive. They end up with the puck behind your net. Why? Well, if you understand how patterns happen in hockey, then you actually can think and be in better positions.
Yep.
So, anyways, do you want to add anything to that for now?
So,
okay.
So more generally, like if I'm extracting out the principles, 2 things stick out just from what you were saying. One was, we talked about before, the difference between watching like a fan and watching as a player, as a coach, or someone who's actually trying to get better at the game. Because if you surface watch, which is what a lot of people do, and last week I went to a few games over the last week, and I was just surface watching. Like, there was nothing critical. I mean, you can't help but notice certain things, but I wasn't there to try to study. I was there just watching to enjoy the game.
Yeah.
And you miss so many things when you watch like that because you're just watching the puck float around.
Yeah.
And if you're somebody at home that watching the playoffs right now or whatever, and you just sit and watch that puck and follow it around anywhere it goes without asking any questions like that, then you miss a lot of that stuff, and that transfers to decisions that you're going to end up making on the ice. So if you're not asking, and this was something I never did either. Like, I even remember when I was on the ice with you when I was a kid doing skill stuff. I never asked you. I don't remember. I would have asked you how to improve a skill sometimes, but I never would have said, where in the game am I using this?
Right.
Where is it most appropriate to use this? I never asked that, ever. And that's a very important question to ask,
Yeah.
Because if you have the skill, but you don't know where to apply the skill, so when you're watching the game, it's important that you watch critically. And that brings me to my second point. We talk about being able to have a brain. This is why you can't be an idiot when you're an athlete, because unless you're one of those guys that we talk about that just gets it, and you get those 1%ers who in the rest of their life, they seem like they're just a jackass, but they just get hockey, man. They just understand how it goes. They know how to read the game. They know how to read the plays. A lot of guys aren't that, though.
No.
And so they have to work at it, and they have to work to learn how to make the correct decisions in certain situations. And that takes, again, critical thinking, man. Always comes back to that. You have to be able to critically think. And that's why it doesn't matter if it's hockey. It doesn't matter if it's math class. Asking the question, the why. It will bleed over into other things. And this is, if you don't give a rip about school, this is one thing that you can use to practice having the skill of asking questions. It's just always ask questions. And I credit Charlie with this too, because he's a guy that doesn't care about school a whole lot, but he always will say when we're having discussions or whatever, I'll ask him why, or I'll be like, I wanted to ask why, but I didn't even want to get into it today. Like, I didn't want whatever, but he's a kid that he asks.
He needs to know why.
And that's great, because if it doesn't matter so much in the subject you're learning at school, he knows how to do that in hockey now.
Yeah.
And he does it with me in the gym.
Yeah.
Why this? Why am I in this position? Why am I in that position? Why am I doing this? Seabass, another guy. And these are 2 guys that are excelling in their sport. And to a certain degree, they both had some I get it about the game already.
Yeah.
But they also have that question asking capacity. They always are asking. It's always them two. It always is, and you find that when you work with small groups of kids, you get the couple kids that they're always the ones that are asking the questions, or that are paying the most attention, or that are thinking critically about what they're doing, or follow instructions to the best of their ability most consistently.
Yeah.
And these are the guys that end up they seem to always get the leg up. It always seems to be them. The common denominator ends up being those guys for the most part.
Yeah.
You get, like I said, you get the odd guy that can just get by doing whatever and they're just that good. But for the most part, the common denominator ends up being that ability to ask the question and to critically think about the situation that you're in.
Yeah.
You know?